Decision Day presented by AT&T has come and gone. We're entering the playoffs, but Andrew Wiebe's not here because he's getting married this week. What's your gift to Andrew Wiebe, hypothetically, for his wedding?
I'm going to get him a bottle of champagne. La Classe.
Oh, actual class.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach him how to say New York, New York.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to get him some Alka-Seltzer because that man was hungover all day yesterday.
For Andrew Wiebe, not here, my partners in soccer, extra time coming up. From New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in New York City. I'm David Goss with my partners in soccer, Matt Doyle, Bobby Warshaw, and the one and only Charlie Davies. That is in honor of Andrew Wiebe. He is getting married this week. I cannot afford a gift because I'm flying to his wedding, so that is his gift right there. Impersonation is the highest form of flattery.
Sincerest, yeah.
Sincerest. Well, I'm not a journalist.
Clearly.
I'm not big with words. That's why I just
Also
copied
true.
what Andrew said. How's everyone doing? Decision Day presented by AT&T has come and gone. Is everyone still on their high?
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I was immersed in the atmosphere here at the studios, watching 12 games and Vela, 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 Vela. MVP, Golden Boot, give it to them all.
He didn't really do it quietly. Let's say that. And you came in all black, so I was worried you were kind of like on the down, but I'm glad to see you still got the juice. Doyle always pumped.
Yeah.
So I feel the energy.
Yeah, no, I enjoy Decision Day. It feels less like a soccer weekend and more like an event.
Yeah, I love that. I'm an American. I
Yeah,
love big
fair,
events.
yeah.
NCAA tournament, I only watch the first round.
Right.
It's just
well, yeah, you 15 hours straight of basketball. No, I get what you're saying. It's tough, because we like to watch and like pick apart the games, and it's tough to do that when there's 12 at once. But it's fun to see everything sort of happening in real time. I have to tell you, I enjoy the new Decision Day tradition of the Galaxy just completely falling apart against Houston, whether it's home or away. I mean, this is a tradition unlike any other in ML. Are we going to get sued for that?
I don't know. I can't believe
Jim Nantz is going to come here and put a.
I can't believe you quoted
copyright.
Jim Nantz on the show, but unusual is at the expense of the Galaxy.
I'm going to tell you this. I wrote my column last night, and it wasn't the regular column. It was the tiers of team, and like. In the original draft of it, I had the Galaxy up in like the contenders because I just feel like with Zlatan and Pavone in games that matter, this team has something, and they've shown it a couple times. But you can't give up 8 goals over 2 weeks to Vancouver and Houston and be like, I don't trust them at all. I do not trust them at all. It was an incredible display. A lot like last year.
Tough day for the LA Galaxy. Great day for Matt Doyle and his Schadenfreude. And for you, Bobby, you were on site for this one. You were out of the studio. You were in the house that Bobby built, Talent Energy Stadium in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Yep. Well, I'm just going to say, first of all, I'm wondering if we should take this opportunity without Wiebe here to do a vote on who does the intro.
No, I think
Is
we
that
should
worth
just continue on what we were already doing, which was your favorite moment.
I'm just trying.
Wait. Do you want to say New York, New York? Is that what you're asking
I just
for,
think
Bobby?
that we should call a vote and have it in a fair and legitimate way.
Okay. So
just because Wiebe's not here doesn't mean Bobby gets to do bits. This is a bit.
This is not
This
a
is a
bit.
legitimate
This is
concern.
something that.
A legitimate
This is
concern.
something.
I thought you handled it extremely well.
That's what I'm saying.
but-
I'm willing to let David into the election.
No. Time out. All right. I'm happy to have an election. If you've scored a goal in the Azteca, you are allowed to vote. Everyone raise your hand if you want me to do the intro. Boom. Done. Move on. What was your favorite moment of Decision Day in Chester, Pennsylvania?
It was really cool to see how good NYCFC are up close. I was a critic until 3/4 of the way through the year. I didn't buy it even when they were winning. I was concerned. But to see the way they cause Philadelphia problems up close from the press box when you can really see the pieces move was fun to watch.
And I was in Atlanta for this one. A lot happened, but I think the coolest one was Michael Parkhurst being celebrated, the fans chanting his name. The loudest cheer of the day was when he subbed on, which was pretty cool. Although I thought he'd go on at center forward, just try and get that goal, end of the career. It was
He
pretty cool.
only scores from midfield.
He does only
Do you
score
think
from
if
midfield.
they got a penalty kick, he'd be allowed to take it? Or
No
Joseph would be
chance.
like, nah.
Joseph would go and celebrate for him. Joseph pulled a celebration right in front of Parkhurst as an honor, I guess, which is pretty cool. Although, his career's not over because they're about to host a playoff game against the New England Revolution.
What gave you guys more feels? Beasley walking off with
Beasley.
tears in his eyes or Joseph doing the homage to Parkhurst?
It's not even close.
Yeah.
Bees?
Yeah.
Not even close. I've never seen Bees emotional, ever. and to see him come off, you knew it hit him his whole career, and he was going through the memories, and he knew this was it. This was it, and what a career he had, 4 World Cups, just watching him come off and seeing him wipe the tears off his face, it really hit home for me.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Parkhurst here, and Joseph's celebration was pure class, and the way that the Atlanta fans embraced him as the first captain of the team and have treated him throughout, and hopefully he will stay involved in soccer. But DeMarcus Beasley for the last 20 years has been one of the faces of U.S. soccer, but in this really weird, under-the-radar way where it was never fully appreciated, I don't think. Even when he was leading PSV's leading scorer in the Champions League, when they got to the semifinals, he was still underappreciated. Even when he was going to 4 World Cups, he was underappreciated. Going from winger to wingback to fullback to wingback, like all over the field, just because he was one of the smartest players we've ever had, still underappreciated. And over the past couple of weeks, as we've gotten all these wonderful stories, like sort of finally getting like these deep insights into who he is as a person, and not just as a player, and then to see some of the fun stuff that happened in Dynamo training this week, and then to see him get emotional like that, that hit me. It's in a lot of ways, it's the end of an era for this part of U.S. soccer.
Is there a chance that if we could move that era forward and we could have watched the Dutch League and the German League and Manchester City on ESPN Plus every weekend and Twitter was firing, that we would have thought of DeMarcus Beasley as the better player than Landon Donovan?
No. Bees is awesome. If you can make a best 11 all time for the U.S. national team, he's in it.
But it's still Landon unquestionably.
To me,
that's not just okay, that's fair.
Let me close this on one quick question. Don't have to go long. Do you think this is it? Do you think we see DeMarcus Beasley on a professional soccer field again?
Possibly as a coach.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't you think it was interesting after the game, though, when he gave that interview after the game and he said, I want to be involved on the business side? Mm-hmm. Like, he explicitly was kind of like steering away towards being a coach.
Yeah. I mean, I could see him in the front office.
Yeah.
100%. With his experience, his knowledge, his connections, his network, he should be in a front office. You'd be a fool not to even consider him to be in a front office, especially at Houston. I would carve out a position
and
just
bilingual,
for
fluent
DMB.
in Spanish. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, he's a legend in the game. One of my favorites of all time. We celebrate him as well as Michael Parkhurst, Tony Beltran, Tim Howard, Chad Marshall.
Game yesterday.
Yeah. So a lot of legends walking away, but the season's not over. So let's not everything's looking back.
Let's not get all sad.
Let's look forward because we've got a playoff field finally set. Portland gets in as the 6th seed in the Western Conference with their win over San Jose. FC Dallas dominates Sporting KC 6-0. They get in the final Western Conference spot as the 7th seed. That leaves San Jose and Colorado as the last 2 teams out. LAFC locks down the Shield, of course, weeks ago. Home field advantage as well as the points record, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then Seattle, Minnesota, and RSL. Those will be the 3 teams hosting in the first round of this new playoff format in the Western Conference. As Doyle said, the LA Galaxy falling apart at Houston, so they will travel to Minnesota, and we'll preview all of that here in this show. On the Eastern side, we've known the playoff teams for a while, but some big moves happening right at the last moments of Decision Day. Toronto moving from 6th to 4th in the Eastern Conference because DC United could not score against 9 players for FC Cincinnati.
The worst defensive team in MLS history.
2 red cards in the 41st and 44th minute for FC Cincinnati, and DC could still not get a goal. What this all means, it means you can go to MLSsoccer.com, you can look at the bracket, you can also fill out your bracket challenge, you can get that one started, and we've got 2 weeks now to preview all these games, to talk about these matchups, to break it all down. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about this part of the reformat as a chance to look forward for all these teams. But first, let's talk about the king. Carlos Vela, you mentioned it as your moment. He was tied with Josef coming into the weekend. Could he break the record? And then it became will he score 17 golazos against Colorado? He did it in style, and now he's on 34 goals, which is the new MLS single-season record.
He can do it in a variety of different ways, whether it's dribbling 4 players, whether it's coming out from the right side, coming in and banging one from 25 yards out. He can make the near post run, get in the box. He's just so dangerous when he's on the field. And he has 15 assists. It's just a player that doesn't come around too often. He's a generational player, especially in CONCACAF. And, I remember seeing him go to Arsenal and watching him do it here and there in bits and pieces where Arsene Wenger said, this might be the best player to ever play at Arsenal. Like, that's telling you something, what he can do. I think what takes away from his ability at the end of the day is he's not as selfish as you need him to be like a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Messi, like to have that hunger, that desire, because we've seen him, throughout his career take a little bit time off, the fights with the national team and the management there. But it seems like Bob Bradley has really done a great job of harnessing his skill and pushing him in the right ways and pushing those buttons and keeping him motivated, because this performance, I don't see it getting better.
Remember when we made fun of Bob?
He was so good.
We made fun of Bob for the Messi comment? It worked, right?
It did.
It really did.
And it was one of the most interesting things throughout this year, and I keep going back and thinking about it, Vela at one point said that the pressure was different in La Liga because he knew with Messi and Cristiano there, he was never going to be the best player. And coming to MLS, even with Zlatan, even with Rooney, even with Josef and Almiron when Vela arrived, there was this challenge to be the best player in the league. And he just raised up and exceeded the bar by about 1,000,000 miles. The question now is, will he keep exceeding this bar into the playoffs? Because look, LAFC are the best team in the league. They are arguably the best team in league history, but that argument is not going to be a winning one for them unless they go on and win MLS Cup. And they have struggled at times against the best teams in the Western Conference. They don't have any wins against the Galaxy or Minnesota. They went 1 win, 1 draw against Seattle, so it's not a given. They're the favorites, but it's not a given.
I'm just trying to figure out, are they the biggest favorites we've ever seen?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Toronto 2017.
Toronto 2017?
Yeah. Just because Toronto 2017, they had already been to MLS Cup the year before, and it took a miracle to beat them. Mm-hmm. And then when they won the Shield in 2017, they did it by a slightly larger margin than LAFC did. And it just didn't feel like anybody was going to be able to challenge it. Like, they didn't seem to have an Achilles heel. Whereas this LAFC team, I still think that you can, if you hit that long diagonal early, just hit it blind early toward your winger, you can counter them.
And think about the favorites last MLS Cup with Atlanta over Portland at home. I mean, you didn't think Portland really had a
But you had Red Bulls going to the playoffs. Red Bulls had beat them in points in the regular season, and that felt closer now than NYCFC to
it was a lot closer. I still think the Red Bulls blew that. Mm-hmm. The Atlanta still have not beaten the Red Bulls when the Red Bulls have pressed. Just remember that in case we see these two teams play in the second round.
I wish we had a running tally for conversations we come back to, and rightfully so. But we could just ding, 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 ding.
There's a decent chance that Doyle has mentioned that more than 34 goals and 15 assists worth, which is what Carlos Vela's done this year.
I hit a half century, my friend.
And potentially a record for Doyle.
Catch that, Carlos.
But we know a record in goals on the season, 34 goals. It's been broken now. We saw it tied by BWP and Wando, broken last year by Josef, broken again. Do you think this one stands for a little while?
I think it does. I think it stands for at least 2 seasons.
And then Messi scores 40.
Yeah.
Go Miami.
MLS is changing.
At this pace, the amount of talent that comes into this league, who knows if this record has a year.
It's something for Cavani to shoot for next.
But at some point, somebody has to start signing defenders, right? That's the thing that has to happen naturally. It's the evolution.
Can I just make one more point about Carlos Vela? He also tied the record for most non-penalty goals in a season, 25. Does anybody know who held the old record?
You were not on the
Roy
show.
Lassiter.
You were not on the show last week.
Did you get that last week?
No, but Weeby told us. It's Carlos Ruiz, right?
No.
Stern John?
Yes.
Okay.
Stern
we were
John,
on the show, talked about it, now I can
Stern John,
remember.
1990.
But who flipped that season into what, a $4 million transfer?
Yeah,
that was like a mega transfer.
Was it
Nottingham Forest, I
Yeah.
believe. That was a mega transfer back in the day.
Trinidad and Tobago Golden Generation. That's what this show is all about right now. In the end of the game for LAFC, some tough moments as Walker Zimmerman was injured. Looked like knocked out. We're still going to get word on what the injury is. But
he's out of the U.S. national team as well, replaced by Miles Robinson.
So he's been withdrawn there, but LAFC with that bye, they've got a ton of time going into their next game. They also set the points record yesterday for the best season in MLS history. We weren't sure over the last few games. The form had sort of dipped if they'd get there. The expectation weeks ago was that they would. And in the end, they did it against Colorado, and now they are the greatest team in MLS history.
Oh, slow down. Slow down.
So, I love this conversation. Do you want to take it first, Charles, or do you want me to get into my...
Go ahead. I want you to go
needless
deep.
to say, I have a hypothetical for us.
All right, go ahead.
Okay? When I think about this question, it's so hard to answer, right? Because of eras, because one thing I do think happened this year is LAFC got so far ahead so early that other teams took their foot off the pedal in the regular season, that the Galaxy and Seattle knew they were going to make the playoffs, and they didn't have to fight as hard to win every game for a stretch there. But to think about the greatest team ever, this is what I did. I put together the 10 best single-season teams in league history, and we could argue who actually makes those 10. I have my list here, and we'll go over it in a second. And I think to myself, if those 10 were to do it home and away, an 18-game season of the 10 best single-season teams in league history, who would win that season? For me, that is how I think about who is the best team in league history. I'm going to give you the 10. We could probably quibble over this, but I'll give you mine. 1997 DC United, 1998 Chicago Fire, 2005 Revs, who didn't win MLS Cup that year, but this was in their run of 4 straight. 2008 Columbus, that was the Schelotto year. 2011 LA Galaxy, 2014 LA Galaxy, 2012 San Jose Goonies, just because why not? 2018 Atlanta, 2018 Red Bulls, and 2019 LAFC. My point is that if you were to play an
Did you not mention 2017 TFC?
Okay, so we'll take out one of the Galaxy teams.
Or the San Jose team. For that.
No, the Goonies are staying.
The Goonies are staying
The Goonies
in.
are staying.
The Goonies are staying in, Charlie. Come on.
And the question is, over an 18-game season with those 10 teams, who wins? I take LAFC. I think LAFC, for their consistency, for their high bar, win that league, and for me, should be considered the greatest, at least regular season. We're not going to get how playoffs factor into this, but the greatest regular season team in league history.
So the point I'm going to make off of this is that you left off the actual best regular season team, which is a 2001 Miami Fusion.
Yeah, I didn't know how to factor them in.
And that's because they didn't win MLS Cup. And so so that tells you what's at stake for LAFC and how they'll be remembered. And I do want to make this point, what they did in this regular season. Last year, the Red Bulls and Atlanta United combined plus 55 goal differential. Between two of the best teams we've ever seen in this league, combined plus 55. LAFC on their own, plus 48. It's ridiculous.
I just want to add this about the 2001 season. You know the real reason I didn't add them? Because the teams played different numbers of games in the regular season. Some teams played 27, some teams played 26.
Yeah, go by points per game.
For sure. I just felt like I couldn't include a season in which they played different number of games in the regular season.
I'm also
in this category. That is the entire
That's
reason.
fair. But I'm also old enough to remember that team, and they were gorgeous.
And
they played gorgeous soccer.
Valderrama and Diallo?
It was not Valderrama. It was not Diallo. You're thinking of Tampa Bay, like legitimately terrible team. It was
team was
Pineda.
awesome.
The Tampa Bay was awful. It was Diego Serna, Alex Pineda-Chacon, Preki, Ian Bishop, Steve Rooney. Ramondo was in goal. Pablo was one of they played a 3-5-2.
Beckerman was on the bench.
Beckerman was on the bench. Yeah, that team was great. Nobody remembers them because they didn't win MLS Cup. LAFC's got to go win MLS Cup.
Yep. So Charlie, did you have an answer to Bobby's question, or do you want to talk about the 2000 season for a while?
If LAFC win the MLS Cup, and I think another team that he brought up is Chicago Fire '98. What a team that was! Bob Bradley coached that team.
Yeah.
So to compare the two, I think I'd love to hear what Bob Bradley thinks if they do win MLS Cup. If he could coach both teams, which team has the advantage in a season where they're playing 20 games?
One thing to throw on there, you mentioned Atlanta from last year. If they win MLS Cup this year, and it basically becomes a treble, because Campeones Cup is the most important trophy, that kind of adds to the R of the 28, because you mentioned the Revs. You mentioned them because of their run, the Galaxy the same. It changes what Atlanta United, I think, has done in their time, but I still would probably go with LAFC or Toronto FC. So just throwing something out there, Bobby, throwing it in your craw. Anything else you wanted to go on the best team of all time? Are you good?
I could dig into this Atlanta point, but I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay, so let's jump into the weekend a little bit. We had some incredible games to close out Decision Day. I was sitting in the stadium with the ESPN Plus Whip Around show, and I thought there was a glitch at one point because I was like, there's no way this many goals has been scored right now. Like sometimes you see every team come out scared. Not yesterday. Not going to happen, especially because of what mattered for some of the teams like Dallas who just went for it. Let's start with the Portland Timbers versus San Jose. 3-1 win at home for the Portland Timbers in what was a playoff game. It was the ESPN game of the week. It was the national TV game for a reason. And for the Timbers, this is what we've been talking about all year is what are they going to do in must-win games? They had to beat San Jose to stay in front of them to get into the postseason, and they got it done with a 3-1 win. Laurice Mabiala started the scoring in the 29th minute. Chris Wondolowski equalized right before halftime on a phenomenal goal.
Amazing.
Wando-esque at the near post, just pure finishing. And then who else, of course, because it's fall, so check your watch. Dyron Espria has woken up. He scored in the 59th, and Sebastian Blanco, a screamer, in the 75th. No Valeri, no Fernandez for Portland, but they got the job done finally. It's taken about 5 months or whatever it's been, but they finally, with their backs to the wall, got it done.
Yeah, they did. And to be fair, they should have gotten it done 3 or 4 games ago when they actually started playing better. And I know it was a totally justified amount of criticism directed at Portland for their inability to get on the same page, their inability to do anything but cross the ball, their willingness to settle for bad crosses. That really did start to change a few games ago when Minnesota visited them. Then they had that New England game, which, I mean, they should have won that 4-1. Then they went to Sporting Kansas City, and that game was a mess, but they fought back, and they got a 2-2 draw that was, I thought, deserved. So all of that, and leading up to this game, I was about 98% sure that Portland were going to win it with or without Diego Valeri. The talent differential, even without Valeri and Fernandez, is still just too much when Portland lines up at home against the Quakes. And they took care of business.
Fernandez suspended, Valeri injured, also in a contract negotiation dispute type thing with the Portland Timbers. So we'll see what happens on that front going forward. On the flip side for San Jose, Bobby, it was a special season. There was a stretch where they were the story to talk about. It didn't end well, but how do you walk away from what San Jose did?
I just want to say I saw a couple of writers who follow the team, and they've got a great set of beat reporters and analytics reporters for that team. And a few of them said, yeah, Almeida really stepped the team up, but it was a huge collapse in the end. So Monterrey, just be careful with when you're signing him. I'm like, that is good. That is some good stuff right there. The Quakes have to feel good about their season, right? The fact that they were alive in the end, this close to the playoffs, the performances they gave their team, that stretch in the middle third of the year. We knew coming in it would be an uphill climb because of the talent problems. And Magnus Eriksson and Vako and Danny Houston turned out to be pretty good MLS players, just not quite good enough in a good Western Conference this year.
I thought this was interesting. We'll close on this with San Jose. Chris Wondolowski tweeted, "My love for this club will never waver. It has bigger and brighter days ahead. I will always help this club. If I'm on the field or in the office, I will always make sure this club is first priority. Hashtag Quakes. Hashtag my club." Is anyone reading into that?
Yeah,
Well,
you don't have to be a genius to read into that.
I thought I was, but okay, fine.
You
Charlie.
could possibly hang him up after this. I mean, this season.
He shouldn't.
Yeah, if you're a club, you have to go get Wando, right? You would. Who knows what he would accept? But there is.
You think he's going to leave San Jose after this?
I mean, dude, a couple $100,000 speaks for itself, right? If the Quakes don't want him, and if you're a team out there to get Wando's experience, his personality, his leadership, and his ability to finish, you wouldn't spend allocation money and however much it costs. And obviously, you don't want to go too high, but you wouldn't give resources to get Wando on your team.
I would, but if I was the Quakes, I would just give resources to keep him on my team.
For sure.
He had 15 goals this year, and he showed the sort of the willingness to come off the bench when that's what was called for. When he got benched, literally benched earlier in the season, he didn't throw a fit. He just worked his way back into the lineup and showed that he can still be Wando. Now, I do think they should go out and spend $4 or $5 million on a 24-year-old, 25-goal scoring number 9. You're starting to need that type of player to really compete in this league. But having Wando as, we're going to give you 1,300 minutes next year. Sometimes you're going to play as a second forward. Sometimes we're going to rotate you into the starting lineup. Sometimes we're just going to throw you on at the end of the games when we need goals. Wando would probably say yes to that, and they should absolutely keep him in that role. And if you look at the responses to that tweet, all the fans are like, please do not retire after this year.
I took this as a sign that...
Yeah, I read it opposite of you. You took it as a sign that he doesn't know his future with the club.
Right.
I took it as a sign as he doesn't know if he's going to keep playing. That's how I read this, because why would you say in the office with this club
No,
Right.
that you're feeling negotiated against?
I'm going with Bobby here.
Really?
Well, let's just do this. Chris Wondolowski made $800,000.
I understand.
You think Chris Wondolowski isn't going to play for $800,000 if they pick up his option?
Of course.
Right? This isn't.
Yeah.
If the Quakes want him, he's staying.
Yeah. It's all about uncertainty with the club. Do you want me for the future? Do you want me next year? There's probably been no talks.
So you did have to be a genius to read into this one, and I was not at that IQ level.
Not really.
Charlie kind of left me out here on a limb. We'll see what happens. Apparently, Shea Salinas ran into some fans at the airport, and they said, good season, and he said, let's do it for a few more years. So at least Shea Salinas seems to be in the fold for the future. For the Portland Timbers, they will head on the road for the 2019 Audi MLS Cup Playoffs, and they will do so at RSL. We're here for RSL. A 1-0 win at Vancouver for Salt Lake to close out the season. Damir Kreilach, the 28th minute goal, starting at center forward, as he does in big games.
It was him and Rusnak sort of switching between one plays the 8, or one plays the 10, one plays the 9, and like they kind of swap during the run of play. But anyway, continue.
No, that's all we're going to say. Nick Raimondo, a few huge saves.
By the way, we've been talking about players retiring. We haven't mentioned Nick Raimondo yet. That's because we know we're going to see him for at least one more game.
Yep.
Don't worry, on a future episode of ETA, because Utah fans, they get salty really quick. But yeah, Nick Raimondo, legend as well.
Play on, where is that at? We know now what the game will be. Saturday, October 19th, RSL will host the Portland Timbers at 10 p.m. Eastern time at Rio Tinto on ESPN News. Guys, we have actual matchups. It's not abstract anymore.
So you see the stats right there? Who's the favorite in this game, David?
You want me to read that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get in trouble now, too. I'm going to be in this with you.
RSL have the third
Got
seed.
Cobalt on, too.
I know, right? They're the third seed in the Western Conference. Are they the third best team?
Currently, they are 1-9-2 with a -9 goal differential versus Western Conference playoff teams in 2019.
Their only win was against a highly rotated Seattle squad in a midweek game.
Enough said.
Is it enough
To be fair, they did have other big wins against Philadelphia at home, against NYCFC at home. Also, some mitigated
TFC at home.
NTFC at home. Is that another one?
I believe all
So
those
they also
squads
had
were
other
rotated
wins,
as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
There were mitigating circumstances, but they had big wins to go in there.
What do you look at going into this one? I think the big question mark is the Kreilach thing. Sam Johnson left on the bench for Portland now. You expect Fernandez will be back. Valeri, we don't know.
Not 100% that Fernandez is going to be back.
Really? Doyle's doing his own thing over here. What's your expectation going into this game? What's the biggest factors you're looking at going into this matchup?
To me, it's can RSL actually come upfield, use the ball to create chances, and not give Portland counterattacking opportunities? Because whether it's Fernandez or Valeri or whoever does or doesn't play, like this team has been at their best the entire decade when you let them get out and run. That's it. Like RSL are going to have to, they're going to have possession in this game. And they're going to have to do that and not leave themselves exposed to the counter.
You could do that for the whole Western Conference, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Whichever team has more of the ball is more at risk. And if you're more at risk in this Western Conference with Minnesota, who like to sit deep, Real Salt Lake, who like to sit deep, the Galaxy, and who knows what the hell they want to do, the Portland Timbers, who like to sit deep, the Sounders, who for me are actually still better when they're not the aggressor, not the team trying to use the ball. So across the board in the Western Conference, what Doyle said is true.
For RSL, it's a lot of question marks. They've parted ways with their head coach. They've parted ways with their GM, but yet they're third in the Western Conference closing out 2019. It's not a bad way to close the season, and that should be an interesting matchup as well between those two. Let's keep on in the Western Conference on Decision Day presented by AT&T. FC Dallas, they knew what their job was. SKC at home, must-win situation, and who steps up? He doesn't celebrate this way, which kills me, but the Cobra. Shouldn't that be a celebration? Guys,
You are doing, for those listening,
Yeah.
David is doing a Cobra.
This is good radio.
I had an extra say in there, yeah. Make sure you watch on YouTube, by the way. We are always on YouTube, and you get to see Cobalt shirts. Charlie's got the full black outfit, head to toe, which I fully appreciate, of course.
It's a kick.
Kick childhood cancer.
Sure.
That's a good one as well. Cobra gets the first goal in the 9th minute,
Bobby is wearing what looks like pajama tops.
but elbows are not showing, so he's
Okay,
well dressed. Cobra in the first one. Matt Hedges 3 minutes later in the 12th minute, set up by Santiago Mosquera. You know, just showing Jalen Lindsay what the professional game looks like for a moment, and then Lindsay left out to dry by an SKC backline that just decided they weren't going to defend most of the game. Second half, Mosquero, Barrios, Cobra again, and then Jesus Ferreira. Luchi Gonzalez went into this game and challenged his team, said, win 5 games and you make history, you win MLS Cup. That might be extreme, but today, that day, for an FC Dallas team that maybe has crumbled in big moments, this was a massive win for this group.
Yeah, I mean, you have to come out and show that we can win at home and get into the playoffs, which they did. So this team has confidence now, because when you watch FC Dallas play, at times you're like, you get bored. It was just boring, and I didn't see that from them against SKC. Granted, Sporting Kansas City have already thrown in the towel. They were already ready for vacation. Their bags were already packed. But it's still 6 goals that you score. You're heading into the playoffs now with some hype, with some energy.
Charlie, what is the difference between going into a big game as a naive kid compared to a veteran who has experience? I think about the 09 Confederations Cup. You weren't necessarily a kid, but it was really your first big moment compared to, say, the MLS Cup you were in 2015 or 2014, right? How do you approach the two differently as a youngster compared to a seasoned player?
In 2009 against Spain, we'll start with Spain, just going into that, it was all about the commitment and the game plan, which was cut out defensive midfielders of Spain, Xabi and Xabi Alonso. So my goal was just to focus on the defensive side of the ball, make it hard for them, don't give them time and space. And then when we did have counterattacks, be ready to go and run at people and be fearless. And I enjoyed that. I thrived off that. I wanted to challenge Puyol and say, hey, look, I can play against you, and challenge myself. How good am I? What's my ceiling? So going into that, it was just high energy, stay focused, stick to the game plan. Then we played Brazil. It was a little bit more of the same. And we were up 2-0 at half, and I think that's where you talk about youth and inexperience and being naive. I was already celebrating. I was like, we just won a FIFA tournament. I cannot believe it. We're going to beat Brazil. Dream of all dreams. The next thing you know, they score within 3 minutes or 4 minutes in the second half, and it was downhill from there. I just watched it in front of my eyes just spiral down, couldn't stop it. And in 2014 against LA Galaxy, a little bit of the same. We beat New York Red Bulls at home to go to the MLS Cup, and we partied after that game like we had won the Super Bowl. That's what it felt like. It was like we already made it. Like the turnaround is complete. We made it, and we came into that Galaxy final thinking, wow, we have the momentum. We're unstoppable. But as good as we weren't good on that day. And I think that's what let us down against the Galaxy. But it's a final. It's a playoff. I think for these kids, they know it's one game. You show up or you don't. And I think they all have the right mentality. And I think Lucci's done a fantastic job of coaching these young players to get them to understand what's at stake.
I'm not forgiving Bobby for relitigating the 2009.
I didn't mean to relitigate it. I'm just trying to figure out the difference.
I'm angry now.
Sorry. I'm trying to figure out the difference approaching these games. It's colloquially thought that younger players are at a disadvantage. And I just wanted to hear Charlie's experience as a young, naive player and then again as a veteran.
Fair. I do want to point out that it was the veterans who stepped up in this game. Like Andrasic, obviously, with the goals and a little bit of hold-up play. Barrios finally finding the back of the net. Santi Mosquera had his best game in 2 years, as an MLS player. Like, this is what FC Dallas had been waiting for. Like, these weren't supposed to be rebuilding years. This team has actually spent money importing what they presume to be high-level attackers over the past couple of years, and repeatedly, none of them have delivered. Maybe Sporting Kansas City didn't put up any resistance, so it's tough to read too much. Like Andrasic just scoring that goal over the top, like that. Like Andrasic's not winning many foot races. That was ridiculous. So you don't want to read too much into it, but if you're veterans, I just feel like you look at a team and they know that if their striker or their winger is going to put the ball in the back of the net, it allows everybody to play so much freer and with so much more, whether they're young or older or in between. If you have those guys who are doing the job that they're paid for in the final third, you're going to be playing a different type of soccer.
100%. And it also makes it easier to defend. You don't mind defending
unless you're the Galaxy.
For sure. But you don't mind defending 1,000% because you know it just takes one moment. So it actually allows you to defend with more conviction knowing you have a star attacker who can create something.
Well, it will be in Seattle Saturday, October 19th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That one on FS1 on Fox Deportes. The Sounders, a 1-0 win over Minnesota at home. Roman Torres back from suspension in the starting lineup because Arriaga was suspended for this one. He gets the goal, and Seattle gets the victory, moves them to second place. They get to host this one. About 3 weeks ago, Dallas played in Seattle midweek, and they got a 0-0 draw. Cobra did not play in that one. Barrios started up top. Seattle struggled to just score or create chances in that one. Is this an opportunity here for FC Dallas? Can they go on the road and get this done in Seattle?
No. I just don't think.
I felt that coming.
Yeah, no, I just don't think they can. I think they'll play well and they'll miss chances. And then Ladera will do something special, and either Ruidiaz or Morris will put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, you trust a team like Seattle because they've been here before, and they have guys who have done this before.
It feels like the classic, you're pretty confident FC Dallas is going to win the XG contest.
Yeah.
And the Seattle Sounders are going to actually win the real contest.
And is that the experience you think? Is that what it is, or is it just the way these teams are set up?
Just comes down to efficiency in the final third, right? It's not about experience, it's not about being young. It's about where are your best players. And Cobra's a good player. Michael Barrios is fine. They are not Nico Ladero or Raul Ruidiaz in the efficiency and the probability of a goal in any moment.
And it also needs to be said, Paxton Pomacall's hurt. They got this done without Pomacall yesterday, which is a big step because earlier in the year they were like hopeless when he wasn't on the field. He has some sort of, like, whether it's stomach or groin, somewhere around there, injury. He's not 100%. They're hoping to get him healthy, but even if he is healthy, he's still not Nico Ladero.
No, and I give Dallas the benefit of the doubt just for getting into the playoffs with that squad and a lot of youth. But on the road, no chance. At home, I would say Dallas has a chance.
Very good chance, yeah.
Very good chance. They're great at home. But on the road at Seattle, very difficult place to play. And you throw in a playoff environment and atmosphere, ooh, it's...
But when we're doing this, though, David,
What?
we're doing this. So give me the number, guys. I'll say 61-49.
No,
Seattle
that's
Sounders.
incorrect.
That's
Matt.
61-39. Seattle.
While you guys are thinking about this, Dallas was
I'll say 73-82.
Charles?
1,411.
Dallas was 10-1-6 at home this year, 3-11-3 on the road. Seattle,
I'm going to
11-2
give
4 at home.
80-20.
80-20 to Seattle.
Yeah.
All right, there you have it. FC Dallas fans, have at them. Do whatever you want. I give you full permission. That one's going to be fun. It's going to be on Saturday, October 19th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, FS1 and Fox Deportes. But we continue on in the Western Conference because Seattle knocked off Minnesota to clinch that home game. Minnesota tumbled down the standings, but still held on to a home game. Why?
Because of Christian Ramirez.
Because of Doyle's favorite yearly tradition. The LA Galaxy, they were leading in Houston. They scored the first goal, and then they went up 2-1 as well. Christian Ramirez a double, La Panterita with a goal, and then Memo Rodriguez closing it out. A 4-2 win from Houston. Doyle mentioned how this changed his mindset on the LA Galaxy. Do you think this affects the Galaxy at all? Do you think they're thinking about it?
Nope.
No, dude. These guys don't give a crap. These guys could care less right now. You know how I know? Because I've watched them play soccer right now. But they are still in lit. But we'll go in something we'll get to in a second. They're still a favorite to head into the playoffs. Moving on. No more talking about the Galaxy.
Sunday, October 20th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. Minnesota United hosting their first ever Audi MLS Cup Playoff game. This one at Allianz Field. How do you feel about Minnesota going into this matchup?
I feel that they're confident at home. But the way they're playing right now, it is not good. It is. I would be very concerned if I'm a Minnesota fan, considering this is a one knockout game, a team that comes in and is organized and understands that Minnesota is really going to only hurt you on the counter. That's it. If you can lock that down and don't give them time and space to run at you. If Darwin Quintero plays, who knows, after that fight with him and Heath coming off, being substituted off, I don't see them really having an edge in the playoffs.
Heath is going to start Quintero, right? Darwin Quintero is going to start this playoff game.
Is Angelo Rodriguez?
Didn't start in the Open Cup.
But he started the Seattle game, which you have to think was his best team. No?
I mean, this week, this Minnesota team, they have 4 very good defenders. They have a pretty good goalkeeper. They have 2 excellent deep-lying midfielders. I don't think Jan Gregus has gotten as much credit as he deserves. He's been wonderful. And that has given Adrian Heath the leeway he's needed to just try to mix and match and find something that works in the attack. But nothing has worked in the attack over the last 10 games. They've scored 10 goals in the last 10 games, and like 2 of those were those Mason Toy goals against LAFC, which are just not repeatable. You can't count on stuff like that. You have to actually build chances, and they don't. At the same time, I know Bobby's dismiss, like he's not worried about the Galaxy. They're going to play. They've given up 21 goals in their last 7 games.
It's a lot.
They have no identity.
They've given up multiple goals in 5 of their last 7 games. They've given up 4 goals 3 times down the stretch. It might not matter that Minnesota don't really have a thing besides the counterattack, because the Galaxy are going to be like, sure, you couldn't. Yeah, run out on David Bingham 6-7 times. We'll give you a few chances. Zlatan's going to get a couple. We don't mind losing 5-2.
And Pavone. I mean, it's those two. It's a 2-man show.
Match winners in LA, but I hope it gets freezing on October 20th. A night game at Allianz Field in front of that crowd against Zlatan and Pavone. It's going to be a lot of fun. Those are the matchups in the 2019 Audi MLS Cup Playoff first round in the Western Conference. So go to MLSsoccer.com, get into your bracket challenge. You could win a ton of great awards. And then on the East, let's talk about it, because we knew who the 7 teams were coming into this one on Decision Day, presented by AT&T. What we did not know was that DC United was going to lay down and not host the game. DC United, a 0-0 draw at home against FC Cincinnati. Joe Jow, a red card in the 41st. Roland Lamar in the 44th. No Wayne Rooney in this one. On the flip side, Toronto FC gets a 1-0 win at home against the Columbus Crew, thanks to a gorgeous Alejandro Pazuela free kick in the 58th minute. And now on Saturday, October 19th at noon, we are headed to BMO Field, which I don't think anyone thought Toronto was going to host a playoff game coming into this one. On Univision, TFC hosting DC United, and DC now haven't scored in like 14 weeks, and they're heading to a Toronto team with one big question mark, which is the health of Josie Altidore, taken off the field, getting an MRI today after going down under a tackle from Jonathan Mensah. A lot to look at for both these sides. For Toronto FC, if Josie's hurt, do they have a chance to still beat DC United at home?
They have a chance to beat DC United because DC United are that poor. But
I love when you do that. That is my favorite part of this show, is when you just
to draw at home against Cincinnati, who have 9 guys, is unexcusable. Unexcusable. I'm at a loss of words, because where's the attack? We're talking about Rooney. Well, we didn't play in this match, but you're
talking about Quincy Amarikwa.
Well, that's what you get.
Whoa, baby.
oh my God.
You hive.
You're going to do that to him?
So, but this DC United team, they've limped into the last part of the season. I mean, it's just defending. It's just, let's fight and defend.
5 straight shutouts.
Great.
Second best defense in the league.
Great. Playoffs, no goals. See you later. Enjoy vacation.
Although going on the road, that's the setup you're going to have, right?
Yeah.
They're going to sit and counter.
DC is going to be totally fine dropping everybody behind the ball.
Of course.
And if there's no Josie for Toronto, that's ending 1-0 DC.
Ooh. And Areola is going to chase around Michael Bradley.
Yep.
That's going to be a really fun matchup.
All I know is, without Josie Altidore, Toronto have no chance of winning the Eastern Conference.
Right.
And DC United, with no attack, Acosta's already checked out. He's looking for his next club. Rooney's already thinking about Derby County. No chance. Like, even if they win this game, that's it.
This season
is it.
This season has changed on DC United, but
it's not the DC we all thought they were
but
at the beginning of the year. They aren't who we thought they were.
Nice. 1 game knockouts. You never know what's going to happen. That's the beauty of the 2019 Audi MLS Cup Playoffs. That's why we love it. Speaking of limping into the playoffs, this is going to be a really gross theme over the course of the rest of the Eastern Conference. The Philadelphia Union, I ranted about them last week because they couldn't beat Columbus with a chance to host and get first place in the East. They lost at home to NYCFC when NYCFC had nothing to play for, 2-1. And then on the flip side, New York Red Bulls will head to Philadelphia because they lost on the road to Montreal 3-0 when Montreal had nothing to play for. Kyle Duncan comes off hurt in that game.
Yep. Which is a big loss.
On the flip side,
and you saw what what happens when you put Murillo into that lineup.
But on the flip side for NYCFC, Eber went off hurt in warmups, so didn't play in this one. They're saying it's not that bad.
They have a bye, so they'll have time to recover.
Kasper Shabilko also went off injured for Philadelphia. You were there, Bobby. Philly, we kind of talked about this was like a test run for a playoff game. Mm-hmm. They failed that test. Now they host the Red Bulls, which I don't know is the matchup they wanted because it's an experienced Red Bull side. How do you see this playoff?
Well, I just want to talk about for another minute how cool it was to watch NYCFC play from a soccer perspective, because you get to see
Continue.
You get to see from above how they do their build outs with the shape. And just numerically, when they drop Alex Ring to have 3 center backs, and they have the wing backs a little higher, 2 wing backs who are comfortable, whether it's Matrita, Sweat, or Tinnerholm, receiving 50-yard balls, bringing it down, and playing, it creates such a problem if you're trying to press them. Because all of a sudden, you have to send 3 players 1v1 on the 3 center backs. You have to send your outside backs all the way up to their wing backs, and it leaves you 2v2 or 3v3 beyond midfield with their strikers. It felt like what Atlanta could do to people last year. They could play out of the back, or they could just drive it 70 yards to Almiron and Josef Martinez, which is unstoppable. It was really cool to see the conundrum that NYCFC puts teams in. Philadelphia tried to press early. They totally failed. Figured out a little bit in the second half, but NYCFC's ability to play 3 in the back and use their wingbacks or pass through the middle through Maxime Morales is nearly impossible to stop.
And that's why they're the top seed.
It's almost as impressive what NYCFC does as you avoiding every single topic I try and push you on.
It's called a pivot.
Which is impressive.
Yeah.
For Philly, though, they're going to control the ball against New York Red Bulls coming to Philly. They've never won a postseason game.
But it doesn't matter. Whether they control the ball or not doesn't matter in this game.
Why?
Because Philadelphia need to be able to compete at a higher level, right? It's not about passing. We've seen that this Philadelphia team can pass in the last 2 years. That them winning big games is irrelevant of their passing ability. They need to be able to win second balls. They need to be able to transition well. They need to be able to force turnovers.
Center backs.
The center backs need to be able. The center backs need to be able to hang at a. Maybe it's not as big.
It's really it comes down to Philly's center backs. Can they handle?
Well, it's Brian White, who's had a good year.
I did not think you'd ever use those words.
No, I'm just saying physically Jack Elliott and
But I'm
Mark
not talking
McKenzie
about an individual now in New York Red Bulls. I'm talking about defending as a whole.
With Royer coming off the wing and Kaku and
just
blah, blah, blah.
just the options that New York Red Bull have.
Well, they didn't work very well in Montreal.
But when you're talking about players who can actually hurt you 1v1, and you're talking about Eber and Tati Castellanos, players of that quality, Josef Martinez, they've never been able to hang with players like that. So for Philly to actually get over the hump and make noise in the playoffs, it comes down to the 2 center backs and Andre Blake not giving up that rebound or that having that lapse of concentration or the mistake that ends up hurting this team. Because with Bedoya in the midfield and Majunjanin, they really set the tone. They press, they work hard, they have guys, they hold guys accountable, they have all these players who can hurt you. Elsinho off the bench, you have pace with Fafa Picault, you have Kasper Shabilko who can now score goals.
You might not have him though. I actually think you guys are wrong. I'm more confident in Philadelphia's defensive solidity at this point than I am in their ability to score playoff goals. I just maybe if Shabilko had stayed healthy and got 2 more goals, maybe if Elsinho was as good as he had been in the summer, but Elsinho hasn't done anything for a month and a half now. If you look at that game yesterday for 60 minutes, Philly played really good soccer. They created chances. They did not finish any of them except for the penalty.
It's going to be fascinating to watch that one. Can the Philadelphia Union win their first ever postseason game Sunday, October 20th, 3 p.m. Eastern time on FS1 and
who's
Fox
the match winner on that squad? Brendan Aronson's not a match winner.
No.
I mean, might not ever
But
be.
Shabilko is supposed to be.
He's supposed to be, but he just got hurt, and you don't know if he's going to come back because he has a foot injury. He missed the last 2 years with a foot injury, and even though he's looked good in the regular season, I'm still not 100% sold that even if he's 100% healthy, he would be a match winner in the playoffs. Like, it takes a different level.
I would be.
You're on the Shabilko train?
I wasn't, and he pushed me all on.
Look into
The goal
look into
against
the camera,
LAFC.
Look into the camera, Charles, and say, I'm on the Shabilko train.
Why do you keep calling him Charles?
I don't know.
It's the Stanford in him. He's throwing out the Charles. Yeah, Shabilko, I'm on your train.
Kasper Shabilko limped off in this one, but we hope he will be back for that Audi MLS Cup Playoff matchup. And the final matchup that has been set, it will be a rematch of the final game of the season. Atlanta United beat the New England Revolution 3-1 at home. They will host the Revs again on Saturday, October 19th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Univision and on 2DN. Charlie, you watched this one. You've been around the Revs a little bit as well. The Revs lost 3-1 on expected goals. I think they actually were higher than Atlanta in this game. You're a little more hopeful than just seeing them lose 3-1 that in the rematch they have an opportunity.
I love the smile. But when you look at Christian Pania and the opportunities he had in this game, because Atlanta United get their wingers so high and Gressel gets up, you can expose them. And they had their opportunities. You score a goal, and then you just defend and you play counter, and you just have Gustavo Bo and Carlos Heel up there to create moments of magic and brilliance, which they do throughout this season. They've done that on multiple occasions. I wouldn't count the Revs out. That's the only team that's a crazy game to predict the Revs coming out on top in Atlanta. But it is possible. This is a game where I'm like, nah, I'm not so much 80-20. I would put this at like 65-35.
Atlanta are good. They can win big games. They're a street ball team right now. They're a straight-up street ball team, and those aren't teams that play consistently.
They definitely leave chances on the table, and as you said, there are match winners in that New England Revolution side. I was at that game, and the Revs could have been up 2-1 at halftime, and at that point, the panic in Atlanta changes and the atmosphere changes. It'll be fascinating to see for Atlanta United, because last year, question marks going into the playoffs, and they completely turned it around. Talking to Michael Parkhurst, Jeff Larentowicz, those guys post-game, they felt like they're in a good place.
And no, in my experience too, I'm sure you can relate. Playing a team again back-to-back, even when you've lost the first game, you've had that experience now. You can be rest assured that they're going to make the necessary adjustments to have this game be a little bit closer. And for the players, a lot of them playing their first minutes in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you feel more confident. You feel better about this situation now. You know what to expect.
What happens when you win the game that first time? You go after the game, you watch your film session, you say,
do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah.
We have it figured out. If you're the other team, you go back and watch film and you have to make an adjustment. It's the same thing that happens in halftime across the world. One team goes into halftime up 2-0, they walk in, they say, keep doing it. 45 minutes more. The other team makes an adjustment, gets the upper hand.
Lieben. Life. Make them feel you. That's literally the only German word I could have gotten out of that one. The Audi 2019 MLS Cup Playoffs are here. Go to MLSsoccer.com for your bracket challenge. It's free to play. You could win an Audi VIP driving experience. You could win 2020 season tickets, a $500 MLSstore.com gift card, and the winners of each club's league, you'll win $100 into MLSstore.com on a gift card. So much to play for. This is the best part of the year. I am so excited for our new format of the postseason. Before we get out of here, though, we do have to touch on some teams that didn't make the postseason.
But I want to do this first. I just want to list the key injuries heading into the playoffs, just so everybody hears this. Kyle Duncan was the starting right back for the Red Bulls. He came off in that loss to Montreal. Josie Altidore, we talked about that a lot. He came off in about the 70th minute in that win over Columbus. That's still being evaluated. Walker Zimmerman, very scary moment. He was knocked out cold. He came out for LAFC. He is out of U.S. national team camp. Paxton Pomykal did not play. He's been nursing groin or lower stomach injury. Diego Valeri missed the Portland game with what's reported to be a calf injury. Eber injured in warm-ups for NYCFC. Not clear how bad that is. Ishmael Tajiri-Shradi scored a goal and then came off at about the half-hour mark for NYCFC. He's a big player for them. And Kasper Shabilko for Philadelphia Union. He was injured in warm-ups as well, was limping, according to Bobby, who saw it happen. Not clear how significant or how serious that injury is. Alejandro Bedoya also missed that game, but he's expected to be back for the playoffs.
A lot to think about going into the postseason. We've got 2 weeks, plenty of time to preview it. We're excited. And, of course, international break. Bobby will be here on Thursday to break down the U.S. national team going into the Cuba game, and we'll be back next week going into that Canada game. Will Josie be there? What will happen for the U.S.? What will happen for Canada? But first, news coming down this morning. James O'Connor has been let go as head coach of Orlando City. Orlando losing to the Chicago Fire 5-2 on the final weekend of the season. They were already eliminated. Charlie, what's your reaction when you hear this?
I'm surprised it wasn't done sooner because it felt like this was inevitable. So why waste everyone's time and wait till the season's done and not go out and hire a coach that can really coach a team to hopefully get into a playoffs for the first time? Orlando's never gotten into the playoffs in MLS history.
But they were better this year than they were last year. It was their best season ever.
Okay, but that for me, that's still not
progress has to happen.
And it's not. It's just he's just not a coach that's going to get them to where they want to be. So if you're not certain that this is the coach for the future, then why have him?
I thought that Orlando looked good for stretches this year, that their team shape, that they were making progress, not to mention what he did with Louisville winning championships in the USL. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but I was more encouraged by his progress this year.
Also, in mid-August, they'd gone 4 unbeaten, 1-2, drew 2, a couple of decent results in there, beating FC Dallas at home, draw at Toronto FC, draw at Minnesota.
They've never won back-to-back games.
Correct. And it looked like they had, started to turn the corner a bit, especially in the context of having made a decent Open Cup run as well and having played really well in what eventually turned into a loss against Atlanta. So it did feel like that. But then you look down they had a chance to make the playoffs, and they completely fell apart over the last 6-7 weeks of the season. They went 0-3-3 down the stretch. None of their leaders stepped up, and the big thing with Orlando City was James O'Connor could throw 3 defensive midfielders out there, and they wouldn't give up a lot of goals, but they couldn't score. Took one of those guys out and put in another attacker. They could score 1 goal, but they'd give up 3 or 4, and he never was able to figure that out. And by the way, the sporting director, Luis Muzzi, is that how you say his name? Muzzi? Yep. Was hired after O'Connor. So at some point, you knew he would want to bring in his new guy, whoever that happens to be. I would keep an eye on Oscar Pareja in Tijuana. If Cholos don't make the playoffs, maybe he becomes available.
But Muzzi was at FC Dallas with Oscar Pareja.
Right. So this is something...
it's like you already know.
Yeah.
You already know.
Yeah.
Tab Ramos has also been rumored. Availability for this job. The Houston Dynamo job is open. Montreal Impact only signed Wilmer Cabrera to an interim role, so that is an opening. And
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
There's just rumors out there that Matias Almeida might be leaving Major League Soccer, so there could be an opening there. I'm not saying there is. I'm not trying to will it into the world.
And some other clubs as well, I think.
And Charlie's just throwing the guillotine down on a few other teams as well for Orlando City. The fight starts next year for them in the state of Florida as Inter Miami will be joining as an expansion team, as will Nashville. They faced off. I don't know what term you use in a coin flip here in this studio. Did you flip the coin?
Yes.
I saw you put on Instagram the coin, but I didn't get to see it.
It was me.
How was
So
your
I'm like,
form?
I'm already an Inter Miami legend.
How's your thumb?
The form was picture perfect.
Clean?
No stress on the ligaments? No.
It was the
Charlie's got it
sound,
down.
the flick, and then the catch.
Do you do the catch to the back
No.
or just clean catch?
Had to clean catch and drop it down for them to see.
Inter Miami with their first selection. There were 5 things to be selected. Who would go first? Who would go second? Inter Miami took the expansion pick in the expansion draft. They will have the number 1 pick. Nashville then second. They took the number 1 spot in the allocation order. And then on the third option, Inter Miami took the number 1 super draft pick. Charlie, you've covered a lot of college soccer this year. You're working for the ACC network.
Yes.
Shout out to that. Next game is Wake Forest versus
High Point University, and then Duke at Notre Dame on Friday.
Oh, lots of games. Is there any names for Inter Miami fans that they should be looking out for? Number 1 super draft picks, guys who could make a difference, be the next Kyle Larin or someone like that.
Absolutely, and I know they're already involved because I've seen Paul McDonough at multiple ACC games. So shout out to Paul McDonough. I know he's doing his homework. There's some exciting players that could definitely make a difference in MLS next year.
Can we get some?
We can. Mauricio Pineda at UNC.
Not going to be in the draft, though.
Not going to be in the draft.
Homegrown guy?
Or shouldn't be. What if...
The Fire would have to renounce his rights,
right?
Man.
And then he would have to say he wants to go into the draft.
Have you met Cam Lindley?
I have. The Cam Lindley guy.
Eddie Robinson, as well as Kymari Smith on Clemson, both attackers.
Okay.
Speed, strength, can beat you on the dribble. Daniele Proc at Duke, cerebral, and then Daryl Dike, who Doyle has seen play at UVA. Strong. He's a physical phenomenon.
Soccer bloodlines.
Just a beast.
What position?
He's a center forward, so he's like his older brother, Bright DK, except he's got much better feet and much better passing vision. My biggest criticism of him from what I've seen so far is like as a center forward, he's a little too much of a playmaker. He's not goal hungry enough. I need to see him be a little bit more vicious in the box, get his own. Through 10 games, I think he has 4 goals and 6 assists. They run everything through him. University of Virginia are actually playing soccer. They usually play just horrible boom ball, but they're actually playing soccer this year.
Yep.
And a lot of it is because he's huge. He's 6'2", 225. So he just posts up, and they can play everything to his feet and through him. It's a lot of fun.
And the last player I'm going to say is Philip Mayaka, who's a defensive midfielder for Clemson. And you talk about players who have a high ceiling, gets around, covers ground, tackles, good on the ball. I've heard some ACC coaches mention him in the breath of Conte. So this is a player.
Always a good comp for college.
Keep an eye out.
How about Hassani Dotson?
Keep an eye out
Hassani Dotson
for this kid.
Last time Paul McDonough was part of an expansion draft, super draft, he got Miles Robinson with the number 2 pick. The time before, he got Kyle Larin with the number 1 pick.
He knows what he's doing.
So
he's also got Julian Gressel with the 8 pick in there.
So he's been pretty good.
He knows
at
what
this,
he's doing.
in his time. A lot to watch out for. So stick to MLSsoccer.com. We'll have Super Draft coming up way in the future. Because first, we've got the 2019 Audi MLS Cup Playoffs. The field is set October 19th. It all kicks off with 4 games, October 20th, 2 games. And then midweek, we go right again. And then we've got the conference finals coming up a week after that. So it's going to be fun. Bobby will be here on Thursday for our national team previews. So hit up the mailbag. We've got some stuff in there, but we need way more for Bobby to answer, to talk to you about, and everything else good that's going on. Expansion Inter Miami and Nashville fans are excited. MLS playoff team fans are excited.
By the way, shout out to Martin from Sweden. Wando finished 5th in the Golden Boot race this year.
You know, Martin, you know what that means. For everyone here, congratulations, Andrew Wiebe. Take more vacation.
Talk, Martin, talk.
If you want to. For myself, David Goss, and everyone else, thanks so much for listening to Extra Time.